YouTube. So tonight I'm going to talk about disentangling the tangles that we weave unknowingly. We don't choose to do this. And just as a metaphor, I was thinking about my hair. I have curly hair. Anyone else here have curly hair? So you don't quite understand. Yeah, Marianne's like, yes, I do. Anyhow, uh, and I can't brush it every day. If I brush it every day, it'll get all frizzy. So I only brush it on the days that I'm going to wash it. You can't wash curly hair every day. There's a whole bunch of curly stuff, knowledge that you don't care to know. But anyhow, when I go several days without brushing my hair or combing my hair, it gets these really wicked tangles in it. And it takes a long time, and a lot of patience. Anybody had tangles in their hair before? Yeah, right? Trying to get all those tangles out. And that's basically what I'm talking about, but I'm talking about it metaphorically, internally, within our own psyche and our practice. And here's a poem I wrote a few years ago, about untangling the tangles. Caught in a circle of tangles, I struggle to get free. The knots get tighter. Ow, this really hurts. I seek pleasure in conditioned realities, and I briefly forget that I am bound. Then the familiar contractions arise. I wish these painful knots would go away. Where did these tangles come from? Why am I stuck here? How can I get away from this bondage that stops me from being free? I struggle again and again to loosen these knots by seeking success, pleasure, and knowledge. But these tangles just get more tangled. Finally, by being willing to feel their tightness and relaxed amidst the pain, bringing curiosity to these knots, they begin to loosen their grip. As mindful clarity deepens, I see the origin of these tangles. I also see how all other beings are tangled in their own tangles. Compassion grows, wisdom arises, tangles fall away, one strand at a time. So there's the talk. That's basically it, right? But the reason I came up with this theme of tangling is because the Buddha talked a lot about detangling the tangles. And sometimes he used the fire metaphor, where all of us are like our hair is on fire with delusions and painful emotions and painful mental states. And other times he talked about how we get entangled in our own tangles, and how his practice is about getting free from these tangles, right? We're actually practicing to become free from them. We're not practicing to bypass these tangles by, if I can just take deep enough breaths and relaxed enough breaths and be light and beautiful and loving enough, then all my tangles will go away. Wouldn't that be nice? Who's tried that, by the way? Anybody? Yeah, I think. How did that go for you, anyhow? Maybe temporary relief, but certainly not lasting relief. So, where do these tangles come from? First of all, I want to say that I think we're wired to be entangled, right? Our most primitive instincts to seek pleasure and avoid pain, these are survival instincts, constantly seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. So as soon as we feel as children any internal pain or confusion or fear, our wiring tells us to go play or to go pick on our little brother or sister or to, sing a song or run around and do something else. We don't have the resources as children to deal with difficult emotions. And if we had an anxious parent or anxious parents with their own traumas, They probably weren't there to help us work through a lot of our own fears and insecurities as children, right? If we had really good parenting with open communication, loving, allowing a lot of negativity to arise and be afraid and to scream and to cry and to, whatever happens to us when we get entangled as little children, then we probably learned at a young age how to disentangle our tangles, right? Because our parents did the work to disentangle their tangles. Yay! But I didn't have those parents, did you? My parents were pretty entangled, right? And so I didn't get the help to learn how to disentangle my tangles at a young age. And so, most of us, when we don't know how to deal with them, there's a prevailing sense of insecurity or anxiousness or fear or, something's not quite right. And this is what the Buddha was putting his finger on when he talked about the first noble truth of stress, dissatisfaction. Yeah, and this is, his very first teaching. The first noble truth is that inherent in life is stress. That if we're human beings, we're not going to avoid it. That being born is stressful. Aging is stressful. Getting sick is stressful. Dying is stressful. Losing that which we love is stressful. Getting what we don't want is stressful. Anytime we cling and attach to anything in this world, we're going to have stress, especially when it goes away, right? So this is just a truth that we're wired to be stressed. And actually detangling these tangles is going against the grain of our natural wiring. We can reprogram and disentangle these tangles through this practice. Yeah. So this is the Jata Sutta called the Tangle. One of the Buddha's students came to him. His name was Jata, and asked, "Tangled within, tangled without, people are tangled in tangles. I ask you this, Gautama," that was the Buddha's name, "who can untangle this tangle?" So the Buddha went on to talk about a wise person grounded in ethics, developing the mind and wisdom, a keen and alert practitioner, meditation practitioner. They can untangle this tangle. Those in whom greed, hatred, and ignorance have faded away, ones with defilements ended, they have untangled the tangle. And where name and form cease with nothing left over, as well as impingement and perception of form, it's there that the tangle is cut. So it's through our own awareness, our own perception, our own understanding of our minds, hearts, and bodies, and how they work that we can detangle these tangles through awareness itself. So just imagine we're these young children, we have all these tangles, we have this angst, insecurity, fear, we're not sure, uncertainty about life. We notice that some people are cruel and we don't know how to navigate all this. And so what we do is we develop these coping mechanisms, right? Some of us become clowns and decide we're going to be jokey and goof off in order to get acceptance of others. Some of us learn to avoid and hide and hope that people just don't notice us, right? Other people become the great scholars in the classroom in order to get accepted by the group. And we form all of these different coping mechanisms. So maybe we become the really needy, anxious one who has a best friend that we cling to, who knows, right? And then we perfect these habits, these coping mechanisms until they become conditioned habits, right? And we're not even aware of them. They're just like autopilot. We automatically go into these conditioned habits regularly, anytime we feel insecure or out of sorts. Some of us may have formed the habit of being mean to people or putting other people down in order to alleviate our stress, um, or fawning and become a big people pleaser. If I can just be nice enough to everyone, then they'll, they'll like me. But deep down inside, we feel the embers of this every so often, this angst, this anxiety or fear and insecurity. And we're like, what is wrong with me? Why am I feeling this? Like, what is this all about? And so then we try to hide it from everyone. God knows if anybody knew how insecure I felt today, or how fearful, or how anxious, or how angry, or whatever our coping mechanisms are, people won't like me anymore, or they won't want to be around me. Or we start beating ourselves up and then we avoid other people because God knows they'll be able to know immediately. Whatever our mind makes up, right? And so we either get in these habits of isolating, avoiding, or pretending, uh, and acting inauthentically, or we get lost in seeking pleasures, seeking comfort, seeking success, or delicious foods, or delicious experiences, or love. Yeah, of course, we need love and connection and affection from people in our families. That's natural, but this is outside of those bounds, right? Or we get lost in elaborate routines where, you know, have to have my routine or else I'm just going to fall apart. Yeah. We could get lost in control, being control freaks. Anybody had done that? If I can control everything in my environment, then I won't have to feel that angst. I'll just run around and control everybody and everything so that I don't have to deal with that inner angst. When the truth is, the only way to detangle the tangle is through regular self-awareness, right? Bringing this kind attention to the tangles themselves, and to notice, like, what leads to the tangle, what leads to feeling the tangle, or is it detangling, then all of a sudden it gets retangled again? What conditions, causes and conditions make it be more tangled? Which ones make it less tangled? And we have to really stop being attached to these habits, these conditioned habits. For some people get caught in, I have to look a particular way. As long as I can get my hair to look a particular way or my body to be a particular way, or heal this or heal that. Yeah, there's so many ways that we avoid feeling our tangles or dealing with them. But this whole thing about a wise person grounded in ethics, what's that about? Right? Some of the tangles come from pain and trauma of how people treated us badly. And then we might unconsciously think angry, negative thoughts towards people. We might actually say negative things to people and be really rude or mean or controlling. If we do this practice, we want to stop causing harm to ourselves and others, right? That's number one. That's where we're grounded in ethics. Every time we hear ourselves say something mean to ourselves, it's like, oh, honey, I'm sorry I just said that to me. Yeah, I love you, or, you're not stupid, you're actually very wise, or whatever you need to say to yourself, to be ethical and kind and compassionate. To develop the mind, that's, of course, to sit in meditation, formal practice as much as you can. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, just sit and follow your breath and be aware of your thoughts. Be aware of whatever's arising in the body, bring kind awareness, this mindfulness. We'll start to see all the tangles, right? We can't detangle something we don't see. We'll start to feel them in the body. So that we can relax and soften around them. We really need to relax and soften because we tend to contract around these already contracted energies, and that makes them that much more painful, which makes our coping strategy that much stronger to avoid. So we really want to choose to be kind to ourselves and others. Even like today, I go to this coffee shop and there's this one woman I saw coming and I was like, oh no. She is a real sweet lady, an artist, but she knows that I'm a good listener. So she grabs hold of me and her tangle is this desperation to be seen and desperation to have someone care about her, right? It's really intense. And she just comes up to me and she just starts telling me, she downloads everything that she's been thinking and feeling and whatever for a short period of time. Yeah, so I either listen, I decide, okay, I have time to be compassionate and kind today, or I get up and leave, depending on where I am, out of compassion for myself. But the one thing I don't do is say, will you please just shut up? Right? Because that would be my tangle getting entangled with her tangles, and next thing you know, we're going for it. Yeah. So noticing how what these tangles are, a lot of it could come from these conditioned habits from this lifetime. It could be generational trauma. It could be that we learned, our parents could have passed their tangles on to us unknowingly. So we want to, it's okay to know where it came from, but that's not enough. We actually have to feel into it. If it becomes too overwhelming, so overwhelming, like if we've really lost someone we love that we've been with for a lifetime, we might need some help through a grief support group or, trauma healing therapy or something. And there's nothing wrong with getting some support when we're lost in our tangles. We can get a professional to help us detangle our tangle. Mindfulness alone is not always enough, is what I'm saying. We have to be kind to ourselves. We can't go, okay, tangle, get out of here. I'm gonna get rid of you now. Guess what that is? That's tightening it even more, right? The tangle's it's like, I'm already in pain. What are you doing tightening me even more? So resistance to the tangles do not work. The only thing that works is compassion, kindness and compassion. Here's Ajahn Suchito. Tanha, meaning thirst, that's the craving that we don't want to feel the tangle, so we get caught in craving things. It's not a chosen kind of desire. It's a reflex. It's a desire to pull something in and feed on it. The desire that's never satiated because it just shifts from one sense space to another, from one emotional need to the next, from one sense of achievement to another goal. It's the desire that comes from a black hole of need, however small and manageable that need is. So this uncontrolled, out of control instinct is so helpful to be around other groups of people who are bringing mindful awareness to their tangles. Yeah. We have to quit pretending like we got everything together. We do, to some level. We're functioning, highly functioning humans. We've taken care of ourselves up to this point. Not that we have to run around and bear our, traumas to people, but we got to quit pretending like, yeah, I'm great. I actually spent, half the day lost and whatever. But at the very least, we need to be honest with ourselves when one of these tangles is coming up wanting to be healed. We don't have to run around telling everybody, but we want to be honest with ourselves. Wow, there's a contraction here. Can I take 5 minutes and allow myself to feel this? There's real fear or insecurity or anger here or loneliness. Can I sit with this and really allow it to be here? Instead of running to crave something new. The Buddha said that craving is like holding a fire torch against the wind, the fire will burn you. He's got the greatest analogies, by the way. Another analogy the Buddha gave was someone thirsty who continues to drink only salty water. The more they drink, the thirstier they become. Yeah. And that's when we run after things in the world. They're very temporary, but they cause, still that craving is still there. That longing for relief is still there. Not easy. I don't want to just sit there and go, oh yeah, I just opened your tangles and detangle them. It's okay. I've done it. You can too. Maybe it'll be that easy for you. I don't know. But I haven't found it to be that easy. That's why it's so important to set your intention, recognize when an unwholesome desire or unwholesome contraction, or you're lost in this pattern, whatever it is, to avoid or seek or hide, and then don't act it out if you can. Don't act it out. And just sit and be with the energy and the desire to act it out. Whether it's one of my tangles that I learned from my parents was saying sarcastic comments to people. Patams. It was a family thing that everybody did. They would just poke fun at their weaknesses. Yeah? And I just thought that's what you do with people you love. And come to find out from other families that that's actually very hurtful. And it's not helpful, and it's passive aggressive. So I've had to abandon that desire to say snide little sarcastic comments. And that habit, the conditioned habit, is calmed way down. If someone else is, I like to make fun of myself to bring lightness to it, but that habit was not helpful. So we all have patterns and tendencies. And then here's The Little Duck by Donald Babcock. Now we're ready to look at something pretty special. It's a duck riding the ocean 100 feet beyond the surf. No, it isn't a gull. A gull always has a raucous touch about him. This is some sort of duck, and he cuddles in the swells. He isn't cold, and he is thinking things over. There's a big heaving in the Atlantic, and he is part of it. He looks a bit like a mandarin or the Lord Buddha meditating under the Bodhi tree. But he is hardly enough above the eyes to be a philosopher, but he has hardly enough above the eyes. He has poise, however, which is what philosophers must have. He can rest while the Atlantic heaves because he rests in the Atlantic. Perhaps he doesn't know how large the ocean is, and neither do you. But he realizes it. And what does he do, I ask you? He sits down in it. He reposes in the immediate as if it were infinity, which it is. That is religion, and the duck has it. He has made himself a part of the boundless by easing himself into it just where it touches him. So the more that we can be with our experience in a deep and intimate level, even if it's a tangle, the more we start to experience our Buddha nature. This quiet, peaceful, connected, loving nature that we all are, have as well. And these tangles stop us from experiencing our awakened nature, bodhicitta. And so we start living through the eyes of loving kindness, where we don't harm ourselves or others, and life becomes much more easeful and effortless and joyful. Yeah. But we have to go through the detangling process from time to time. Thank you very much. I'm going to